We have suffered through what possibly could be described as the worst winter, summer, spring, and fall weather-wise that I've ever gone through. But you never know when it's going to change, and believe it or not, we're expecting even more bad weather in the week to come. So we've planned a variety of things to use our time effectively as time management. And one of them always is, I try to get up early in the morning, go up and visit my Spitfires, hug them and kiss them, say hello to them. That always gets me in the mood to want to go build, or want to go fly, or want to go move to California. I'm not sure what. And if you're really tired in the morning, you just come up and run the trains for a while. What a great way to start a day, even in the hurricane season. My God. I can't imagine my life without a train layout. I'm so glad I built this. And I hope you enjoy sharing it as we progress on it. We're certainly going to be doing more work on it this winter. It's always amazing to me the amount of technology and skills that we've used in building the K&W Railroad, which has become relatively successful in our group of train friends. The fun we've had, the sharing of the information, even sharing the videos. Totally enjoyed every minute of it. It's been a blast. Anyway, a minute or two of this, and we're ready to go attack the daily work. Possibly complete without giving Chicky his breakfast. Chicky, it's time to go to work. We have no time to play with Baltimore Orioles right now. See, he doesn't understand English, so he doesn't understand. Chicky, can you answer the phone? Can you do anything? Can you wash my car? Look at this. Hey! Hey! This bird. Chicky, I'm shooting video. I'm trying to help people enjoy the world of model planes, not birds. Maybe he understands and he's just laughing at me. I don't know. I'm going to go to work. Now that we've had some fun running the trains and getting inspired here, I thought I'd dedicate today, and it's just the weather's so bad you can't even think about putting a plane in the car, let alone going flying. I thought I'd try to, and I talked about this on a previous video, use some of this little spare time that I have to try to lay out. What I want to do is lay out the stab. Now in this case we only have to lay out half of it. Simple reason, because we're going to have a dihedral brake. And having a tail with a dihedral brake is going to present some problems we're going to have to solve. But this would work for even if you had anhedral, like Billy Suarez has in his, why can't I think of it, the Phantom. Or any plane that has a dihedral or anhedral, we're probably going to wind up with lucky boxes of some sort. We're going to wind up in some way having to deal with the fact that we have that dihedral brake in there. Now, one of the things that I've come to appreciate about semi-scale models is, because what we do in essence is we take this same angle of the dihedral, and let's use the tail. If this were a scale model, it would be much thinner than a half-inch flat tail. And I did a whole dissertation about half-inch flat tails on the last video, but because we're going to be using this, we're going to try to maintain this angle, or just a bit less angle, but because the parts are thicker, see what really happens. Let me get up. I don't know that this even explains it. When you make a part thicker, the angle appears less. So we're going to try to copy that angle, or maybe make it just a little bit less, because we don't want to make this, I don't want to have a bonanza. I want to have it look scale. Remember, this is not a scale model. I want to have it look scale from blankety-blank feet away, or that it is one of the defining features of the airplane, but I don't want it to be something that keeps the plane from being a really competitive plane, or makes it so awkward to launch or handle or whatever that it's a problem. Again, this is a fly-in model. This is not going to be a scale model. Again, I want to look at, and what's nice about having the books, look at all the defining features. That angle is one of the defining signature features of this plane, as well as the really long nacelles. The long nacelles, I think, are going to be really challenging to lay out and build, but the body should be relatively straightforward. And if you're thinking about any kind of semi-scale project, even a profile semi-scale, I mean, George Gatis made an A26 profile that was awesome. It was just awesome. Anyway, that angle, now what I'm going to do is reduce the angle. I've got 1 inch of dihedral in the original wing. I think I'm going to put the same in the second wing. I looked at it when I was over Mike Costello's, and that wing, when you look at it from the front, looks like it has the right amount of dihedral because it's much wider. Boy, we are busy with this phone today. Anyway, that is a common thing. Scale plane and the dihedral. A lot of times before you actually make up a drawing, and in this case, because we're going off the aerodynamic numbers that Dave Downey came up with the formulas for the wet area on the tail versus the wing and the moment arm, I want to keep this very similar to the area of the B-25, but I want to also have the look of the dihedral and the same relative shapes and tip sizes, of course. Now, the other thing that's nice about the A26, and we haven't even come close to making this decision yet, there are just 1,000 different paint jobs and 1,000 different options. And there's even custom ones that have been converted into privately owned, similar to the B-25. So I have a feeling this project's just going to, as it evolves, it's going to be more and more fun. And the truth is, at this stage in my life, and I get a lot more energized, especially early in the morning like this. I get a lot more energized when I'm working on something that's very unique, very different. This project, as it evolves, is going to wind up taking on a life of its own, just like the B-25 did. And when I look back at how many hours I spent making molds and parts and shapes and figuring things out, sometimes I think it was the most fun of all. But the project of the day is to get the tail laid out and get that dihedral angle right, relative to the wing dihedral angle. And if we get those two from the front and the rear, it'll look really, I think it'll look as scale as possible and still be a good quality flying plane. And if we can wind up making it an ounce or two lighter, or what I'm hoping for, because of the carbon body, even 5 or 6 ounces lighter, and use the same powertrain, the same props, same carbon tanks that we've used, same exhaust manifolds, I think it's going to be an awesome plane, and it'll be a lot of fun having it at the Nats, at Brodax, at where it'll be fun flying it in Palisade Park. The part of a project like this that's hard to describe, and I guess Richard Oliver said it best when he flew the B-25 at the Nats. He said, I just can't describe how it feels. It just was a fun plane to have out on the end of the lines. And if you like simple, easy to build planes, this is not going to be it. But we're also going to be doing other projects in the shop that are relatively simple, like our 40 ship, our electric ship, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to combine all of them into being a wonderful building season. And if anybody out there has any A26 pictures or documentation or anything they'd like to share with us on this project, I look forward to sharing it. I guess sharing the documentation, sharing the adventure, the videos. That's the best thing of all. Step one on this was I took all the dimensions actually right off the plane, and the plane was built right off Dave's plans. I wanted to get all the dimensions as close and accurate as I possibly could, because this relationship of the tail, the wing, the flaps, the angle of flap sweep,
This aerodynamic package has worked out. Well, you go look at the video of it flying, and I think Dave Downey's put in hundreds of hours on getting this right, and I think he really did get it right. So I don't want to alter any of these things that I know work well for us. What I like to do is just make a working sketch. A working sketch meaning that when we're going to make a center line, I'm going to sketch out exactly half of the stab and elevator from the dimensions I've taken from the B25. I need to build two halves. I don't need to build it in one piece because there's going to be a joint in the center. So the first thing is I'm laying out what will be the center line. I also then want to lay out what will be the hinge line. We can lay that out at basically at 6 inches. And so we have a hinge line. And from this now it's just a question of transposing all the numbers and drawing the outlines. And we know the half span is going to be 12, so we've laid that out just in pencil line. For having the books and having the dimensions that we know are going to make for a good aerodynamic plane. Now the B25 had straight elevators. What we're going to do is add from Peter to pay Paul because the tail shape of an A26 is kind of symmetrical. So we're a B25 straight. So I'll take some of this dimension and add it here. So we have the same overall dimension, the same amount of square inches, but a tapered shape. Just get some idea of how this is going to lay out. Then of course if we're not happy with it, we can just make incremental changes. Now we also need to take into account what the tip shape is. The tip shape is relatively round. And this is the part that just takes a little time, is sketching and resketching out the curves, because we have no real exact way of doing this other than sketching and resketching. And once I'm happy that I have it, a little more. Again, the curve lines, you could do it with French curves if you wanted to, but I think just by eyeball is just as good a way in my case. At times I have to sketch this 50 or 100 times, and this is no exception, because this is one of the features I'd really like to get right. And this is an artist's curve that you can just sketch in this case. You can use this for an edge. It kind of leaves a nice curve. We can look at it from a lot of different angles and see if we have that same curve that we're looking for to transpose over. We'll have to know the fuselage, how thick it's going to be back here. So we're going to allow a little extra, an inch, for the fuselage width. Now the reason I'm going to allow probably an extra quarter of an inch over and above what we need is don't forget these elevators are going to go up on an angle. And as they have a dihedral brake, they're going to get closer together and further away. So I'll leave plenty here. So there's no chance this is going to get, let me just show what I'm saying. In the back, where this comes together, this dimension here is probably going to be a little thinner on our model, but we certainly don't want to take a chance that we're going to have the elevators walk into or hit the side of the body. What you do is leave a ½ inch, maybe even a little more than a ½ inch for our molded front edges, which we've got some drying. We need to know what that dimension is going to be. Now we also, and I was thinking of several ways of doing it, because this is the challenge, this is what makes it fun, how I'm going to make this spar. And I can make the trailing edge and the spar all one piece. And and have that spar already have the angle that I want to use in it. But again, we'll see what later on when we lay that out. We'll allow a 1/2 inch here because we know that's going to be a 1/2 inch radius. And it wouldn't matter if you were designing up your own 35 ship or 40 ship or, in this case, a multi-engine ship. These things all pretty much work out the same. You're working with the same amount of numbers and so what we're going to do, we want this to come to a dead point, so it means we're going to have a joint in the back. A very thin joint, as that goes. And so it would look like we'll have soft blocks, wrapped leading edge, spar, a hard spar, and then we'll try to hollow some of the wood out of it. Our wrapped leading edge here, and this will have a curve, same as we have on a B25, and these joints will just come together very close to being the trailing edge, and we won't be able to build this on a flat table. We'll have to make a little fixture so this doesn't, if you build this flat, when you pick it up off the table, the trailing edge is a little crooked. We'll have to take that into account. Anyway, we will, at this point in time, now just lay out the ribs, and we know we want 1 inch rib spacing on everything. Now, the other choice we have, we can use 1 inch rib spacing, or we can answer the phone. I like to just color in to get a rough idea of what this is going to look like. That's going to be my rough concept drawing. As soon as we get a day to start cutting wood, we have some molded parts already in a mold. We got our molded edges made up, and this will be one of our first construction things, and I hope it'll put us a little bit ahead on getting this A26 project moving. Now, as this starts to come together again, this is the totally scale drawing, but we're going to be replacing the much thinner wing with the thicker wing. And of course, once we have the stab built and the dihedral built in, then we can get some idea of what this is going to, and I think it's going to be a fabulous profile to be looking at while you're flying a plane. The turrets, I think that's just going to be one heck of a plane. Something I'm really excited about, seeing how this is going to evolve. Well, this morning, the first thing I want to do, I want to start making up some more of these wrapped leading edges. I want to have a good supply of them because not all of them come out either straight or without some reason a split or a crack. I want to have plenty when we actually start the construction, hopefully later today. And luckily with the dihedral brake, we're only going to need 12-inch pieces. Now actually for this piece, what I chose to do is use the ace bandage, and this is the kind of ace bandage. There are two kinds, one that sticks to itself so you don't need to pin it down, and for a delicate job like this, a 4-inch bandage is about the best. Just take this piece off. Now, if we were making a flat tail, the whole span with no dihedral brake, we'd need much longer pieces. We'd need 24-inch pieces. In this case, we only need 12-inch pieces, but I want to have a good supply of them. And then, of course, you can always take the straightest ones. Once you pull these, can you imagine, just thinking of something, imagine years ago, we used to buy all this big, thick wood making nobler tail and carve, ribs, and then the things that always come out too heavy, virtually every time. I don't know if you can look down at it and see, that's a nice straight one. So We have a couple left over from last year, but I want to make up a bunch of new ones. When that's set into its proper position, this is what helps keep everything as light as possible and as strong as possible. If you have to carve this out, I don't know any way you can carve it and get it done. That's a tough job. Molding it only takes a few minutes. And experimenting with, just add this to the video, I made a mixture of half ammonia and half Windex. And the reason was that the really full strength ammonia, you could die from the smell. I was actually getting lightheaded. And the water just took too long to soften the wood. Now the mixture of half ammonia and half water seems to be a good compromise. This was a dry piece of wood basically a minute ago. Again, it's not only getting the lightest pieces of wood, you want to get ones that once they're molded, they're going to retain their shape. You see how this goes? You can almost get that shape in there. You can almost get it without the mold if you were. Because if you sat out in the sun and did this long enough. You can almost put that shape right in without a plug. But we do have the balsa plug, and we'll wrap this, and tomorrow we'll have another piece. And every day we'll have a piece. I'll build up some inventory before we actually start the construction. A couple tips here is as you work the bandage, and this is a self-stick, in other words it sticks to itself. As I'm working it down, I'm pulling a little bit of tension on it. This is really there are a lot of things in life that they sound real easy, and then you go to do them and they turn out to be a nightmare. This is one of the things that looks maybe a little more difficult than it is. And once you build up a little technique and you do it a few times, you say, wow. Again, I'm not sure who gets the credit for pioneering this, but I've seen Al Rabe do this type of stuff with bed sheets and bandages for many, many years. Now, once that part is dry, it's real important to have inventory, or else when we actually go to make the tail, and we split one piece or lose a piece or it breaks, not a good idea. Now, the piece that we already have made, and this is always a good idea, if you have a piece and you're going to keep it a week or two, now we're not going to keep this a week, but if we were to keep this a week, I would take a couple of pieces of, or maybe even a piece of half-inch wood, so that this would retain its shape. A couple of pieces of tape would help doing that. Same as with a top block. If you have a Strega top block and you're not ready to use it yet, or any top block really, a couple of pieces of tape like that will just hold it in shape from wanting to relax. Because as soon as you put glue on it and glue some ribs in it, it's not going anywhere. But just holding it in position for the time that we actually are going to be, well, a couple days anyway. We're still weathering some pretty bad weather. That'll just hold it in position while we make up more inventory, more pieces. Now, another thing too, what I do is, again, with ammonia, straight ammonia can knock you out. You can get sick from it. Half Windex and half ammonia, I've been using it on the Strega top blocks too, and it seems to be working just as well. So it may be worth trying that. If this is the first time you're doing it, get an old bottle, put half ammonia and half Windex. I think that'll just be a little bit easier than Windex. It penetrates a little better. And it's faster. The water seems to take time to soften the wood. This just goes right in and softens it right up. And Karen appreciates is whenever I'm using ammonia, because she's allergic to so many things, ammonia happens to be something that bothers her. Whenever I make one of these parts, what I try to do is, immediately, while I'm going to have the house airing out and have some fans on later, immediately do all the ammonia work, and do it in this case first thing in the morning. Then by the time she gets home, the house is aired out, and even in the worst of all case scenarios, I could take this outside, put it in the garage, but usually by the middle of the afternoon it's aired out and the smell isn't in the house. But keep in mind, the ammonia does work the best, straight ammonia, but it really can be a problem breathing. If somebody in your family has breathing problems, and which we always have to deal with here on a regular basis. So once I do that, and I'll try to get 4 or 5 of those sheets made up, I know I have to do this work. This is the kind of stuff. Do it first thing in the morning, get it over with. And we have another. These just come right off the mold every morning. Well, it's just amazing to me how well this technology works, how easy it is, how easy it is for other people to do it. Certainly not a difficult technique to master. And once all the ammonia work's done, then you can air the house out. In this case, we put the fan on the air conditioner on just to get the smell out of the house. But that half Windex and half ammonia seems to be a little bit of a find. I think that's a good compromise. Well, I have a little time this morning before the phone starts ringing off the hook. I wanted to figure out how many ribs I'm going to need. I'm going to need 28 ribs, probably double one up in the middle, I don't know yet. I also need to figure out, because this is a 1/2 inch thick tail, and we're using 1/16 sheeting, I need a 3/8 radius. So I want to figure out the length of the rib, the longest rib we need, and it's basically 4.5 inches. So I need 4.5 inch ribs with a 3/8 radius on the front. They'll look like lollipop sticks, and the easiest way to make them is to just strip them off. Now, of course, I have the balsa stripper set exactly to 3/8. And now I want to select the wood, and it's really nice if I can get some sea-grain wood. That'd be really wonderful. The trouble is I don't know how much we have, but I need to make even a couple extra ribs, and I'd like it to be sea grain. Now, another thought that I had, if you were making a little bit smaller plane, like maybe when we make our 40 ship or our electric ship, we might want to make it with 50 thousandths wood, and the whole tail would then be made out of 50 thousandths wood. We're not going to do it for this plane. This plane is I want to make it as much like the B-25 as possible, and if anything, just an ounce or two or more lighter. But I don't want it to be a pretzel either. I don't want it to be one of these planes that in a year it's all worn out and you can't even fly it. I want these things are made to last a long time. I did have is a bunch of pieces that they're nice and light, but this part of it is sea grain. You can see this part. Let's look at it close. This is A grain, and you can see this is sea grain. So what I'm going to do is only use this part of the piece for ribs, and then use this piece to wrap a leading edge. This actually is B grain wood. It's going into C grain and it's A grain here. So I'll strip off the first few pieces very carefully. Very important that the ribs are C grain. Very important that the sheet that we're going to make the stab and elevators out of is C grain. Look at this. This is hard to get. It's catching in the grain, but that's okay. So we may be able to get 3 or 4 strips out of this, and that may be enough for half of the tail. I don't know. Again, a balsa stripper is a lot more accurate and a lot quicker than doing it by hand. This is a master air screw unit. Brodak sells these, I'm sure, or something equivalent. I think we'll get 4 slices out of this for the ribs. But if you make the ribs out of A grain, and if you make the sheeting out, the only thing that should be A grain are the wrapped leading and trailing edges if you're going to use them. All of the flat sheets, if you possibly can, even at the cost of being a little heavier wood, just because what happens is in time they tend not to warp up as you put dope on them in ammonia, and as time goes by and the model sees its useful life, you don't run out of useful life. And that may be enough to make the ribs. I'll find out after I make the ribs if I have enough. The piece that's left over is a relatively flexible piece, and we'll use this for a leading edge. What you would never want to do is make the ribs out of A grain and try to bend the C grain. As long as you have even half of the puzzle right, you're a lot better off than if you have none of the puzzle right. So we need to make up a little template with the leading edge 3/8 of a radius. We'll look on our circle chart, make it up out of plywood, and we'll make it the length of the longest rib. And then that'll be our template, and we can carefully cut out, on a cutting board, we can cut out all our ribs with a brand new XL blade. Now I can get this radius based on this thickness, and this thickness is going to be exactly like the thickness of the rib. And I need to make it as long as, or a little longer than, the longest rib. And then this becomes, once I cut this out, And of course, each part we make for this plane, we will have an envelope and save all the templates so that when Elliot actually does the final plans, or Les Demet, whoever's going to do the final drawings, we'll have a real accurate template for every part that we've used on the plane. And you can use, in this case, it's a piece of scrap 16th plywood. Just make sure the thickness and the radius is exactly what you want, because every one will be taken right off of this. So I try to get the last little bit off with the belt sander so I can get right up to the line and keep that edge nice and straight. And once you make this, now obviously, if you're going to make half-inch flat tails, making the ribs longer and shorter, you could make them any plane, Miss Ashley, Impact, Typhoon, B-25, any plane that has a flat tail, that becomes your template for the ribs. This is one of the jobs you want to really have a brand new blade. I use XL blades. I get them from Brodak. There's an XL cutting pad. And the reason is when the cutting pad really saves you time, it saves you money in terms of replacing blades. You don't wear out the blades when you're using a cutting pad. And there's no substitute for having a brand new blade when you're trying to get these real nice accurate cuts using your plywood for a template. And you've got a perfect match. Now I'll make all of these a little bit oversized because I want to trim the back and make them just a bit oversized for now. The back side we don't care about right now. We'll trim that as we install them. So I'll make up 28 of these, make a few extras with the wood I've stripped off, and we'll have the ribs cut while the molded leading edge is drying. In fact, we already have one made. We could actually lay out half of this tail today. So we have all the ribs cut out. I have the other ribs cut out for the other side, of course. I may as well make them both up at the same time. In fact, while I'm doing this, if we were making a no dihedral stab, of course, we'd have the whole thing laid out in one piece. In this case, we don't. We're only going to build half stabs. Now, with these all laid flat and square, I put a couple of push pins in, and I can dress off this edge so I have a real nice smooth edge. Even though this might be overkill, this totally trues it up that they'll all be exactly the same. We hopefully will not have any ripples in the leading edge, even after several years go by of flying the plane and the wear and tear that it normally takes in a day of flying. And we'll do the same thing with the other set. This is for the other side. Pull the push pins out. It's like a deck of playing cards. We have a real nice stack of ribs. They should all be symmetrical. Next step is going to be to go through our sea-grain wood and make this exact piece. Since we're making a half a stab, we're going to make this exact piece out of what I hope will be the best piece of sea grain. And this is the one place where, boy, it had better be sea grain, or when you're done, it just becomes what we call a starving horse. We'll look through our wood, we'll look for the lightest piece, but not only the lightest piece, a piece that will stay flat and straight while we're building it. Now that we're done with this little template, we'll save all our templates. We want to have an envelope with all the templates, so when it's time to do the plans, we have accurate stuff. We don't have things that are way off or just by eyeball. They're very accurate. Remember a while back we went through about 500 sheets of balsa wood, and Les has these sorted out as 16 sea grain. So we're going to look for what I hope is going to be a light piece and a piece that's really straight. You wouldn't think it would matter that much, but it really does. You try to make these parts without using sea grain and you get nothing but headaches. And this looks like really good Look at the grain on this, looks real nice. Okay, so what we did, we made one sheet up. Now using this as a pattern, I'm just going to make 3 more of them. I want the grain going completely parallel to the trailing edge if possible. And I want to have all 4 exactly the same, so when we join the leading edge, we'll have the smallest amount to trim off the back as possible. If you've never used one of these cutting pads, this is a great thing. On jobs like this, it just saves the blades, saves you time, the work comes out a lot more accurate. In fact, I didn't even put this on the video in a while. It's XL number 6, 3 zeros and a 3. It's great for doing this kind of work when you're laying out parts and pieces and you don't want to spend a lot of time. Actually, when you're cutting on the glass, not only you're ruining the blade, you're scratching up the table too, so it saves both. 4 sheets cut, and what I want to do is stack them together and just make sure that they are exactly the same, that they're in fact mirror images of each other. Now the next step is, because I'm trying to make the parts for the other side, even though I'm only going to build one side, I need to take the first side and lay out the rib stations right on the wood itself. So I could look, if I wanted to, look at both sides of the wood to see if there are any little defects in it, any little thumbnail marks or anything that I want to get rid of. But these look pretty nice. And if you did have a bad spot, say you had a thumbnail, put it on the inside of the wood. Other things, we want to get the ribs, needless to say, in straight. There's a little easy way I do this, is just hold this down. And that's why I like to work off my concept drawing, even though this is not a draft drawing. So what I can do is just put dots on. Again, I want this to be, I only need to do this to the inside piece. And by connecting the dots, and I don't want to draw a real hard line, I don't want to put a score in the wood. I just want to connect the dots so I have all the rib stations marked. Just a light inking. I don't want to put a stressorizer there, just a very light inking of where each one of the ribs is going to go. And I want the ribs to line up, so if there's any shrinkage, you don't see this, that the ribs are not lined up if they start to shrink in time. We need to fit a section of leading edge into this. First thing I want to do is trim them both. See, they're not exactly equal. Trim them both so they have an even piece on them. This edge is irrelevant because whatever edge, if it's oversized, we'll just trim it off the back. But first get the length right. Now with these two angles relatively flat, I can block sand that down. Want to see that I have a good joint here. Just trim a little bit of this off. You can just get a rough idea if this is going to be straight. It doesn't have to be real accurate because we're going to put that dihedral joint in. The other side can be oversized. Now what I'll do is I'll put a piece of Teflon sheet under here so I can get this first glue seam done. Okay, you could always use wax paper if you didn't have Teflon. We just happen to have Teflon because it's one of the things we use in our molding operations. And that'll just keep the CA from sticking while we tack glue this in place. Now a real good trick if you're going to do this is just run the sanding block and just create some dust. And don't take the dust off. Leave the dust on. I sell a refrigerator, and what I do, some people really don't understand this, is you want to keep CA in the beginning of the building season, and it's just started for us. I order up what I think is going to be enough glue for myself and for Les and whatever. And what we try to do is keep it in the refrigerator until we're actually ready to use it. Not the freezer, keep it in the refrigerator. For the last, I don't know how many years, a lot of years, I've always used Brodax CA. The reason is, it's fresh. John has such a good turnover on this that you don't get stuff that's sitting on the shelf a year. CA has a shelf life. I'm not sure what it is, but it's not forever. So if you're buying something either on the internet or over a hobby shop, you want it to be fresh. And if the store keeps it in the refrigerator, even better. But if you keep it in the refrigerator, it'll last even a lot longer. I also take the CA tip, and this is a little piece of Teflon tip. I got to get the phone. Teflon tip that you can get from Radio Shack. What I want to do is just press in between each rib station down, put one tiny drop, just rub it with a Q-tip. The dust from the Q-tip seems to kick it off without leaving that big glob of white stuff, and I certainly don't want to use kicker unless I really have to. That little bit of sawdust that stays in there seems to act as a good bond. We don't want to run the glue seam yet, just tack in between each rib and make sure each one is pressed down. Now as we run each rib up into the leading edge, it'll glue the pieces that we've missed. And then once we bring it up on top, we'll run the glue seam from the top. What I want to avoid is a seam that's going to keep coming through the finish. A big giant glue seam that's going to be a problem to sand out. Again, because this is very thin wood. A lot of people, when they start the building season, they have CA left over from a year ago when they were building, and like in our case, we only build in the winter typically. But what happens with this, you may or may not get a good glue joint. And the other problem is if you wind up using a lot of kicker, you get a joint that always comes through the glues, through the finish, no matter what you do. You just keep sanding it and the wood around it melts away and it keeps coming up. So try to avoid kicker if at all possible. Now rather than kicking that, I would rather just let it sit. My little sanding block, leave the dust on. The dust acts as a kicker of its own. Just get back any high spots that I can get off of there. Again, I don't want these seams to come through on the final finish. That's the objective. Now what I can do now is one rib at a time. And from this point on, it starts to really be a fun project because it's a tail. I want to get the rib all the way in there. In fact, I see this one's a little short. I'll take one of my really long ones. And you see the way I'm holding this down? And I want to just touch that with glue. Touch that, touch that. So it's tacked. And I'll go to the next station, and pretty much I guess I can do the rest of this off camera here. It gets pretty redundant. That's why you want all the ribs cut up. You want to line it up. Press this down with one finger, this with the other finger. Try not to glue your finger to it if possible. Tack it in two places for now. Don't have to run the whole glue seam right now. And needless to say, we're just going to go right down and put the ribs in. Now on this inside rib, because we're going to make the dihedral brake, I want to set this in just maybe some small amount anyway. I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch or so. Just as a way to make that a little bit more rigid. Now what I do right now, because these are all tacked together, there aren't permanent glue joints on this. Now I can pick it up off the table once this kicks, and I can sight it and make sure it's straight. Make sure I haven't built in a warp of any kind. And if it's straight, then I can run, which it looks like it's okay. I can just hit this. Run that seam. But if it were crooked, I wouldn't want the seams permanent. I'd want to be able to go back and twist it a little bit. And of course up here I can run this. Now to join the top sheet, which is not on there yet, of course, I want to get the inside even. And I can take me a few pieces of tape, just make sure this is even. Put a little bit of tension on the joint. Again, always best to tack it first. Make sure we're not building in a warp of any kind. In fact, I see what I have to do here. To move this just a tad. Okay. These are all little adjustments you have to make before you put a permanent glue seam down. I want to sight it. Looks okay. Now I can just tack in between these. Using the Q-tip to act as a kicker. Let that sit. Now while it's still on a flat table, I can just tack glue each one of these pieces. Let that kick off. It's about as flat. You can always reverse it and see if it's any little twist in it. Now, with this seam up, let's just make sure we're going in the right direction. Now I can let the glue run down each rib. And it'll walk right into the leading edge. It'll make everything solid as a rock. Famous last words. The other side is already glued. But I think we've got what amounts to be the core of a real nice stab. And we'll trim this off, sand this glue seam, and trim all these little pieces off the back. And we've basically, in a very short amount of time, have half of our tail. I'll just dress these off with a temporary edge. The center edge, of course, is going to have the dihedral break, so there's no point spending too much time on that joint. And we'll put the final 90 degrees on this edge once I get these dressed off. Now, because this block is exactly accurate at 90 degrees, I can just go over to the table and get a real accurate 90 on that. In the inner edge, I don't need a 90, but we can start with a 90. And after a little light sanding to get that seam straightened out, I think we have half a stab done. And I don't think it gets a lot lighter than that. Want to work on that glue seam with obviously with a sanding block, but I don't want to take any more material off than I have to. As soon as that seam is invisible and gone to the touch, I'm done. Now it's very tempting to turn this into 30-second sheet. Right now I just like that, just to take just enough off where you can't see or feel that seam. Take our sanding block, but that's exactly 90 degrees. True up the trailing edge. Make sure that's 90 degrees. We're going to put a 1/16 C-grain cap on this. At first we're going to figure out where the hinges go and put some little extra wood blocks where the hinges will go, but the trailing edge will be, and it'll be a flat trailing edge. It'll only be 1/16. Again, what we're trying to do is, in every possible way, make this as light as possible with still being functional. And I want to make sure now that I have the 1/16 of clearance, so I'm not oversized. Now what I have to do is figure out where these hinges are going to be and put in little blocks of wood in here where those hinges will be, so that when we put the hinges in for the final time, they'll have some meat to catch the glue. And we can lay out this piece of wood. We pretty much know that our hinges are going to be located. Just to make it a little easy, we'll just drop a little center line on this. We made this piece oversized. Now I know this is where the hinges are going to be on the inside, so what I made up is some little soft blocks. And I'll get them right on center, so that when that hinge comes in from this side, there'll be a little block of wood. But for the cap, I only need 1/16 of an inch. Those little blocks of wood installed. Now I just need to transpose where they're going to be interfering and take out that little piece of material. And once I get all those little notches made, that piece will fit right in, dovetail right in. Setting that in, I'm getting a nice tight fit. So it actually almost doesn't need glue, sure. Now I'll just run the glue seam on both sides, and then we'll trim this all off, and that's probably all we're going to get done today. Because this is such a tight fit, I want to push down a piece of Teflon, and by pressing down on a flat surface, I know I can get this seam to come out with a minimum of distortion. And by not using any kicker, if I can accomplish that, what'll work well is I won't have a lot dress off the sanding, the little lumps and bumps from using kicker. And by putting it on Teflon, like I said, I won't glue it to the table. Famous last words. Now it's just a question of trimming this all off, block sanding it in, and we have a half a stab. I try to get the biggest part off with a razor or a 26 blade. Last thing I'll get to do today is a little block sanding with some 220 just to get it nice and smooth. We're going to put this away for today. Come back tomorrow and try to finish the other half, if possible. And then, of course, the big thing would be the dihedral joint. Now let's just get some idea. Always love to do this at the end of the day. Let's see what our stab weighs. We're at 12. So we have half of the stab. You would think 24 plus the tips. 24. We're gonna wind up with hopefully an ounce or a little bit better for the stab when this is done, and that should work out well. All right, we'll pick this up tomorrow. We got another half to do. Morning, I almost forgot one thing. I happened to be going in the back room and I saw my little probe. What this is a piece of music wire with a point ground to it. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that when you make a stab, sometimes an elevator too, but a stab is the most likely candidate, and you seal up pretty much all these rib stations are sealed now. So this becomes a kind of a problem. What happens in hot weather? This is going to want to expand and puff up. So the choices are you could put the holes in the ribs before you build it, of course, or you could kind of do what I've done, and that's just run a probe in. And I've done it in several stations. In fact, I've already done it. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't forget to leave this off the video. Remember Kevin King, he had his plane. You really only have to go in halfway on each side. That if it's silk span, it's even more important. And you forget to do this. Of course, if you had open bays, you could just go in and poke each one. But that's a real critical thing. Now, what I looked at, I weighed this yesterday. This is a really good weight. So what I'm going to do, I'm not concerned with anything right now. Today looks like another one of those stormy, rainy days. I'm going to spend the day, I'm going to make the other half of this off camera. And then we'll come back to this and we'll join up and put the dihedral on probably tomorrow or the day after. But having one half made, I can get an idea of what the weight is. This is real nice. Straight as an arrow. And once you have a part like this in your hand, then it starts to take a life of its own. When it's just a bunch of ribs, it's not really an aeroplane. This starts to be an aeroplane. So we'll build the rest of this other half off camera, then get back to the dihedral break. You wish you had a little crystal ball that you could look into the future and see the A26 all framed up and sitting next to the B25. Well, unfortunately, this is as close as it gets to that. I will build this other part off camera. Same exact technique. So before we're done today, I want to mention on the tape, because I know a lot of people follow this kind of stuff along, Joe Adamusco today, actually the day after I started the tail, 2 days after, has started his Rojet Mark 24 Super, he calls it the Super Elliptical Wing. And this, of course, is Joe's design. And boy, are we looking forward to having a session with him, and maybe a couple building sessions over the winter when he stops by, or we go up to his new shop. Love those elliptical wings. The other piece made, and the neat thing, as always, when you make the second piece, once you've got the first piece done, the second one goes in about a third the time, especially if you're not videotaping, which I assume most people don't. Now this, I wanted to mention this. This piece has the holes for the air bleed. This piece, I don't have the trailing edge on yet. And here's the reason why. I want to marry these up. I made it a little bit oversized. Now let me just get the tips equal. And here's what I wanted to do. I want to make sure I trim so that I have these exact mirror images. Now, I'm working off the piece that has the trailing edge, but I want to also add a 1/16 of an inch for that trailing edge that'll have the little hinge pockets in there. Piece that came off extra. It's kind of neat. I wish I could use this for a ladder on my model railroad or something. I'm not sure we can use this for something. We also want to make sure that we could join them when they're on a flat table and that we have a flat joint, because then we're going to start building in that dihedral angle. So I'll repeat this, and I'll repeat it off camera. This is going to be the same trailing edge piece, but most of all, when we're all done, that they are exact mirror images, and you can see I have a 1/16 of an inch less the amount that the cap that's going to be on the back with the little hinge blocks in it. Tonight I finished up the 2 stab halves. They're ready for the dihedral break. I laid them up on the 25 just to see. Remember, what I'm trying to do is replicate as much of this plane, but make it an A26. And of course, one of the defining features, again, is going to be that dihedral, where the B25 is a straight shot. Now, unfortunately, in the time that we shot this video, we went through a hurricane, and we have a lot of damage in the backyard that's going to cause a little bit of a gap here. Still on the tail end of this hurricane that went through here, and the first thing you notice, is Karen told me, the umbrella is in our neighbor's yard. So I got to go out here and clean up. There'll be no model planes today. Look at the mess. There's tree branches. A beautiful backyard. Well, we're coming up on the end of our flower season. Look at the junk in the pond. Holy moly. I wonder if these fish are impressed. What a mess. Anyway, this will be the job of the day. Clean up the dead branches. Clean up the pond. Now, we survived what I think a lot of other parts of the country did not survive. This was pretty rough weather the last 2 or 3 days. Almost reminds me of the Nats. Top 20 day at the Nats. It's just a day like this. Wow, and just another little progress report. He is done sanding his house. That house, if you could believe, they sanded this house with what amounts to be nothing but 1/4-inch drills with sandpaper on them. An unbelievable thing. They're up on ladders. This is going back about 2 weeks they've been working on this. There's just adventures all around here. Well, today is Rosh Hashanah, and we're going to also be celebrating Karen's birthday. The kids and a lot of our friends will be here, and Elliot Scott from England will be joining us. We plan on having a real nice dinner. We'd like to share a couple of minutes with you of just what our family gatherings are like. And so the lovely Mrs. Ertnowski lights the candles. Now, we had this dinner catered.
We did not.
We didn't do any work.
Absolutely did not.
This all comes from White Castle.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so. Anyway, Karen has been working, I guess, the better part of the week on a lovely Rosh Hashanah dinner. And we should have our guests here momentarily as she lights the candles. I used to do this when I was an altar boy. Probably remember we're waiting to open her big present, which is, well, we won't spoil a surprise. It's sitting in a box. I like having a nice buffed out finish, but Karen prefers to have a nicely set table with a lot of fancy dishes, so I don't know. I guess it's a tie. This is Karen's private matzo ball soup recipe. I noticed all my balsa dust is missing out of the bestseller.
Yeah, the matzo meadows,
Matzo ball soup.
harvesting matzo for many weeks.
When are you going to join us?
I'm going to join us, but I want to make a small speech. We are celebrating, in addition to Rosh Hashanah, my lovely wife's, I won't say the number, birthday, and she has a very special gift.
45th birthday.
45th birthday. She liked to marry an older guy, 58, so she'll get the insurance a lot earlier in life. Okay, let's eat.
Wait, I like that. That would make me like 12.
Well, it's your birthday spot.
Oh my God, how beautiful. That's gorgeous.
All right.
Thank you.
Bill, turn around. This is Elliot.
Yeah, you gotta find him a house.
Yes. Yeah.
Elliot's gonna be buying a house in Rutherford, we hope.
You're beaming here.
Bye, Bill.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mama Happy birthday to you.
A solid 45, look at that, isn't that amazing?
No, that would make me, it's 45.
How can you have children older than you?
You get a candle.
Craig, you realize that would make you 16 and me 20.
Craig, you wouldn't be born yet.
We gotta...
Come on, we want to open presents. Come on,
I'm thinking.
make a wish, new husband.
Wish for everything.
Hey!
That's crazy.
Put it up, there she is.
Oh my God.
Wow.
She's naked.
I only just saw her.
Is she naked?
Beautiful.
Wow.
She looks like yours, Stacy.
No.
She's as big as you, Stace.
Stick around here.
Head off.
Actually, I would like...
Look at this.
Probably need
Wait, let her do it.
From around her.
Where are the little fairies? Who's got the... You put them away. They got little fairies.
They're in your pocket. We'll be able to...
Quiet. Look at this. This doll is toast. Save all the wrapping in case the head comes off.
Where's this dog gonna go? Right here. Nobody get her head out.
Oh, man. She's in a guillotine.
Where if I took the dog out?
Help me, help me. Oh, ah.
This is like a living doll.
Oh, I don't want to go to Wendy's shop and get spray painted. Oh, no.
Creepy sound.
Good night, living doll.
That's like that.
It's like a 30-year-old child.
You believe this, Rob?
Hello, baby.
Come down. What's the name of the one?
Yeah, like that, right? Hello, baby.
Oh, some Twilight Zone.
My name is Claire, and I don't like model planes.
Stacy used to watch that. You remember Twilight Zone with the
With the doll, yeah.
Kathy.
We have dolls in his house. We need more B-25s.
Listen, everywhere you go, there's dolls. 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 They're just everywhere. And guess what? Dolls by the lamps. Dolls everywhere. Everywhere we go. And now there's going to be even more dolls. I don't believe it.
In Stacy's room. Elliot, you get to sleep with her tonight.
Elliot, you get to sleep with Claire tonight.
Cute or what?
Oh my God.
He's marketing himself all wrong.
Is this your new doll? What's her name?
My name is Claire.
Is Claire your newest doll?
My newest doll. Yes, my newest doll.
What do you like about Claire?
She looks like a B-25.
I gotta fix her hair. Her hair's a little...
Yeah, you gotta make her hair look prettier.
You got a little brush?
Not with me.
Wendy, maybe you should go into hairdressing.
I've been thinking about a career in hairdressing and doll making.
Could be a point.
Yes,
You have a little butterfly in the right position.
Wendy, you know what they say about grown men who play with dolls?
Well, you know what, you're right.
Hey, Art, come on.
Wendy, what do they say about grown men?
Yes, you're very cute.
Come on. She's very nice. Big Dolly's jealous, though. I don't know. Big Dolly's not going to be friends. Not going to be friends.
I don't want to say. That Wendy is some cool guy. I don't know.
I hope you enjoyed sharing this little episode of our life, really. And you thought all I was a good blues music player. Boy, look at it. I can't believe. When I look back at these pictures, I wonder, maybe I'd be better off if I didn't have these pictures. Now we had a great celebration, and the good news, Elliot Scott has got the news this morning from his wife that his house has been sold in England. So he'll be moving in with us very soon, and we've got him working here already on his new computer, which is going to be my new computer as soon as he gets out of that chair. Anyway, here's the exciting news. Dave Midgely's on his way down from New Hampshire, and we have a couple rolls of some real fancy carbon. I'll put some of these samples up on the supplier that he got them from up on the video. We have plenty of material to work from. We made a little test piece. You can see one of his test materials is half carbon and half e-glass, which is the material that some people in the past had made tune pipes out of so that they could dye the material and make them different colors. I'm not sure I need to do that, but he made up a little test piece last night. This is still hardening up in the mold. We'll look at that later. Of course, we know we're doing the e-glass ones every day. The gear get done every day, and we're really looking forward to seeing how this material is going to work once Dave actually gets here. This is the company that Elliot got the supplies from. Let's see, just get some of these. Website is www.carb.com. Anyway, what was exciting is they did send us, along with the material, some various material swatches to experiment with and test. Now some of these, of course, are too heavy. This is half Kevlar, half carbon. See how nice the weave is on some of these materials. But what we're really looking for is the tightest weave possible so that all those little holes between the glass, the fiberglass or the e-glass, see all the little holes? We don't want to fill those holes with resin if possible. But there's a wide variety of material, so if you have any real interest in this kind of stuff, and these people do, what did you say they did? Gliders? They're into tow line gliders?
Just right here, gliders, yeah.
This stuff is actually rated as bulletproof. I saw up here, no, it's on the other, one of the samples is, it says right on the sample, bulletproof. Very cool. Make control horns out of it. So sometimes you don't even know that some of these materials exist. They're in different weaves. But of course, Dave has the aluminum mold, and we are going to try. We already have made 3 planes that have various carbon material parts, and we're hopefully going to learn something. Show how we actually make one of the wings from the aluminum mold. And maybe not have Chicky misbehave as he can do from time to time. Anyway, we have a lot of stuff to experiment with. Here's the real tight weave. This is the stuff I think Elliot already has a couple of yards of. But Dave has the material. He's already made some shells, he said. Just give you some idea of what the variety of material for when you start making carbon fiber parts.
the different materials that you can avail yourself of. And if you want one of these catalogs or one of these, here's his catalog, and boy, there are just literally thousands of different materials to choose from. But anyway, Elliot's done all the homework, and Elliot's got us some samples, and like I said, as soon as Dave gets here, I think we're going to have a very exciting next couple of days. And I hope we learn something, and I hope we're able to pass it on to you if this is something that interests you. For Dave, we're going to make up some more Strega cals. We got one in carbon that I don't like the edges of, and it's weak in one. It's 4-ounce cloth.
It's 4.1 ounce.
Okay, so make it out of 2 layers. Make it out of 2 layers. This is half carbon, half glass. Just make it. This is made out of 2 layers of e-glass. Yeah, I like that one better. And you can always, if you feel it's too heavy, just sand it a little bit. But that one's a little weak with 1 layer. So that's the whole thing, is developing it, is figuring out how many layers you want for that mold.
Yeah, okay. It's kind of simple.
Now what we found is, after doing a bunch of these, is having some of this toe up in the nose piece is a real big advantage, because it makes that corner a little bit more defined. And as you can see what Elliot's doing here, we're trying to do Composite Lessons 101. Make a big glob of that paste. You can put it up, you know the edges that were soft on the other one? Just pile a big gloop of it up. I can even paint the whole mold with that. It won't matter. That'll act like gel coat. And he's going to make one now. We made one with 1 layer of this material, which is 4 ounce. It really isn't strong enough. So he's going to make one up with 2 4 ounces. And then we'll see how the corners and edges sit. The corners with that toe, the corner worked out really well. And that's the hardest part of any mold, is wherever there's a corner, or in this case, there's a reverse mold up around here where it kind of comes back like a Coke bottle. You've got to fill that, do the same thing. It's up those little corners and edges that get to be a problem after a while. You want it to be just like peanut butter when you're done. You see how you can multitask here?
You know, pretty much, well, with the price we're looking at.
He's selling his house while he's making molds on the phone. How cool is that?
But Bill said, well, you have to. No, sorry.
And what Elliot usually does is he pre-forms it before the parts, before he actually puts resin in the mold, which I guess is a nice thing, especially with carbon. Then you can use your bare hands to completely push the resin down through.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. This week, but I'll be back and forth all the time.
What it's done is pack the mold. Look at birds attacking them. He's packed the mold, 2 layers, and a piece of what amounts to be just saran wrap. And now he's going to put the plug in as a way of, just press the plug in and see how it fits. Put some weight on it, and like the wheel pant mold seemed to work pretty good. So let's give that a try. And we'll see how that part comes out when we're done. That'll be a good experiment. Put plenty of weight on it.
Look at what it does. I think it's fantastic.
It flattens it right. Mold up on our list. We're going to mold up an Obla cal. We always inventory these, and the ones that have been coming out. In fact, Elliot took this one out. These we've been making for so long that virtually every one of them comes out just perfect, and we just sand the edges, trim it all off. This has been a staple of our molding little business for so long. Again, anywhere there's an internal corner, we want to get some of this, it's called Cabicil. You want to do the same thing in the back too, Elliot.
Yeah.
As soon as you get low on resin, mix yourself up another ounce of resin with the pumps.
Well, this stuff is going part gloopy, so it actually helps the whole thing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
This is from the last.
And you never mix 2 ounces at once. You mix an ounce.
Yep.
You know why? Yeah.
I mixed up an ounce, and
It
it was
started
hot
getting-
left over. It got very,
Oh,
very
okay.
hot indeed.
Right. And it will catch fire.
Yeah.
If you put it in a garbage can, that resin
Yep.
will kick off and you will see smoke
I
and...
just sat there looking at it for a little while till it had gone cool again.
Again, the other thing is always have the material all cut, the pieces cut, the little nose pieces cut. Having all the material cut, having all these little edges done with the Cabasil mixture and the resin. This is good practice. This is one of the things during every one of Elliot's visits. We try to give him some practice on this because basically he's been doing this over in the UK and this can kind of upgrade the little techniques that he uses. Molds loaded up for the day, and one of the things Elliot has got, and by the way, as far as I know, John Brodak is now selling these. I'm not sure they have them in stock. These are the kind of, I don't know what they call them, ARF Nobles. Take it out. I've never seen one in pieces. This is the way they come, if you've never seen one. Take it out of the plastic. We can see what kind of...
Let's see what we've got underneath here.
Well, they certainly pack it nice. Body's all done. Oh, it's pretty cool.
Strange looking tank, though.
Let me see the tank. Who designed this tank? It's like a little George Aldrich tank. Looks like the tubes are not in the right. Well, we'll find out.
This is glass fiber.
Let's see what that cowl looks like. Maybe we just made one. Ooh, we put this together nicely. Oh yeah. Take the wheels out. The wheels are in the cowling. How cool. How nice is that? That's actually pretty good. Let's go fly it this afternoon. Before Dave gets here, we'll have it assembled. Now I'm assuming the canopy isn't installed. Let me see the body. Take that plastic off. The body looks good. You got to put the rudder on. The body has the holes just like the old Nobler. The wing, you would glue the wing in, I guess. What? They give you directions with this?
Yeah.
I hope. It's just a shame George Aldrich isn't alive to see this. He'd be thrilled. But coming soon are going to be Brodak Cardinals and 2 other designs that John has authorized. And there goes the cowl on the ground. Oh, we'll sell this guy a cowl. Up, scratch. You better buy a Windy fiberglass cowl. Okay. Nice wheels. Yeah, that's pretty sharp. Okay, so you gotta glue the wing in.
Yep.
It looks like there's a dowel hole to line it up. Is that?
They're laser cut. It's a laser cut kit.
Everything's laser cut, yeah.
And I don't know what this is about. We've got some kind of mount here. Can you see that? Maybe
I
that's
don't
the
know.
man who goes in there.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Well, maybe that's what holds the bottom on. Is this a take-apart plane?
No. It's you have to construct it and then it's
Okay.
built.
I see what they did with the hole. The hole is so you can get all the tank vents in.
Yeah.
See where the directions are. The directions of this. That looks pretty cool. That's actually pretty nice. They give you any of the push rods and everything are in there?
Yeah. There's going to be everything in here. I would imagine it's got a rubber push rod.
Well, that's okay for an ARF.
Rubber one.
Little hardware. Oh, you got to glue the hinges in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not a big deal.
In gear. The cowl's pretty good.
The cowl's decent.
It's been sprayed after being made.
Yeah.
And it's got no holes in it. You've got to cut that and fit it around.
Yeah, I guess you got to cut it for the motor of your choice. Where's the directions? Do they have directions? Actually, very cool. Have your coffee in the morning, like we're having a cup of coffee out here, and build a Nobler out on the deck.
There we go. There's the instructions.
Here's the instructions. Okay. See, now I know knowing John Brodak, they'll have some really good instructions. I'm sure there are other instructions.
There we go.
There you go. Okay.
You have these.
So John is known for having the top
instruction booklet in the world. All of John's stuff is top.
I wonder how possible. I mean, you look at the bell crank that's in there, look, and that's the bell crank.
Okay.
So we know that's not going to be good news.
Yeah, that's somewhere down the road. That's
going to.
But these aren't made to live a long life. You know, they're not like us. We're going to live forever.
And look at those lovely push rods. That's good.
Oh yeah, I'd be putting some different controls, but that's, you know, this serves a different niche. It serves a different purpose. And I think there's going to be a future for them. Certainly there's going to be a future because when the Brodak Cardinals come out, they'll have a little bit better engineering because John is active in control line and the people at Top Flight I don't think they are active in control line. Maybe they are. I don't really know. Anyway, that looks like some operation here. Now what are you going to do with this one? You going to take it back to England? You going to leave it here so I can fly it or what?
Whatever you like. What do you want to do?
He said, well, I don't want to leave it here. I want to take it back to England.
Excellent lead outs, look. They look really, really good.
Yeah, and you can use them for dental floss when you're done. If you get something in your teeth, you can just use your Noble lead outs. Not sure I would be using the 010 lead outs.
Yeah, I think probably you'd need a little bit of upgrading here to make this.
Yeah, a little upgrade wouldn't hurt. Alright, so what we're going to try to do, step one, we're going to try to set up the mold on this table out in the garage so we can work out here in complete comfort and luxury where all the Nomex is. Alright, let's go see this mold. Let's see how you got this set. He had it running in his truck overnight. What'd you do, just run an extension cord out there?
I went to bed last night. I'm going to run this thing all night.
Alright, let's see what you got. Now you made a shell already, I see. You got, how many shells did you make? One?
Two. There's one
Okay.
here and one in the mold.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
They're missing.
All right, epoxy man. Let's take everything
I
out.
think I have everything we need.
Okay. Well, whatever you don't, we're going to get right away.
I hope.
Wow.
You got that?
Yeah, got
Yep.
it. I'll go and put
All
it.
right, so step one is unload the truck. Chickadooly's going to supervise this job. Laid up one skin in the bag already and there's one skin finished and there's one skin still in the bag. We have to get that one out.
Got a body for you. It's not this one.
You make body shells up too?
No. But I've got one for Elliot.
Thank you. I think
It needs some work.
Anyway, what we're trying to do is get our material set up as the first part of this job. We set the table up so we'd be right under the lighting in case we want to work at night. And we want to get skins made. The first part before we do anything is to lay this out so one skin is in the bag and drying, and then we can go down and work on the smaller parts. And how these parts started and came.
We started
Up to
with
this
yours. We started with yours.
And mine was too heavy.
Well, no, it wasn't too heavy. It was the fact that on this particular plane, when we sanded it to fit the curve up here, we
Okay.
lost the sidewalls.
Okay.
So I took one of yours, I sanded it to fit, and then I built it up with wood.
All right.
And I made it wider.
Okay.
So I made it wider, and then I made this mold.
Then you made this
This
from...
was too wide. This was too heavy. By the time I got done, I just put way too much,
Yeah.
and I got this, which is
You really don't even need the
Awesome.
cross braces because you're going to glue a tank shim in there.
it's awesome.
Yep. You
but
need
it's
an
too heavy.
eighth-inch. You need an eighth-inch tank shim, so you may as well mold it right in.
But we can use this, and actually, if we take these braces out, I can go in here with a Dremel
Sure,
tool or an end
sure.
mill and machine these out,
Sure.
and this will be fine. It's a
Okay.
totally usable part when I get rid of
And
half
you've
the
got
weight.
the curve up in the front
And
that matches.
the curve in this matches the shape of
Okay.
the body.
Right.
So then I said, okay, that's too much. So then what I did was I went into the original mold and I cut half the thickness of this out on the inside,
Okay.
replaced these with thinner, hogged it out, and now this is ready to pour another rubber mold.
Okay. So now we're going to pour a rubber
Pour
mold off
rubber
of that
mold
part.
on this, and by
Okay.
tomorrow we can be making crutches that fit these bodies.
Okay. Perfect. Now what you ought to have Elliot do is get a good coat of wax on that, so that the mold releases nice.
It's got to be
Yeah.
sanded.
Let Elliot. Elliot's good at doing that hand finishing.
I coated this with CA,
That's okay.
and then we can sand it, wax it, Now this one I didn't wax, and it came out fine.
Yeah, but it comes out so much nicer if you wax it.
Sure.
It'll just fall out of the mold.
Those are way too.
Yeah.
Those are
way too big. And actually, you don't even need them because you're going to glue that tank shim in.
Well, we learned.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's optional to have that. That we know you don't really need.
You can tell this is going to be long.
And you got the, let me see the cowl mold. Did you make any cowls out of this mold
I haven't
yet?
had to. I haven't. That's the original one.
Oh, this is the original one, okay.
Yeah, we've made. This was made out of that. Right here.
And you made this? This is made out of your carbon material?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that works. We just made up we made up a Strager one this morning
Everything.
with a compression part.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
now.
that's a usable part. There's
Sure.
nothing wrong with that. Nice and light,
But
too.
let's go open up the wing and see what we got.
Let me see the front of that fuselage before you go any further. How this?
Right.
Once the crutch is in there, then you can thread the carbon parts, of course. You don't need blind nuts. And you've got the bulkhead in, and you've got the end grain balsa part in there.
Now all we got.
And Nomex, you just got to put the glass in the back.
Put the half-ounce glass in here, bag it.
Right, and put it back in the mold so it
Yes.
keeps that shape.
You gotta put it back in the mold.
If you don't have it back in the mold, you're going to have wrinkles in it.
Useless.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so let's bring all this
stuff left over.
Okay, you got a lot of the material?
Yeah, we
Well, we got Elliot's
got
material.
enough.
Okay.
We got
You've got
enough.
enough. You've got enough carbon for me to do 3 wings. So.
There's enough.
Well, let's see what the that one that's in the bag looks like.
Let's open that up.
Well, Elliot, if you work on that and get that prepped, get a nice smooth finish on it,
Yeah, I'll work on it.
then we'll pour that mold at the end of the day because it's going to take overnight to dry. It won't matter.
Long time.
You know, when you're doing these jobs with one guy, it's murder. I know.
Long time to figure this out. I tried my standard good old polyethylene bag.
No.
I tried going on the top and just taping it around the sides, and that's what I did with that one.
Yep.
Then I said, okay, I'm
And
gonna.
you still have the little indentations from the, well, we'll see if they're in this part too. What is it that it sucks up? It makes like a dimple in the part.
It makes a dimple where you've got the valve.
Well, can you put those valves off the part?
Yeah, on the aluminium.
We're gonna try.
Yeah, that's what would be my next. And if necessary, use these two for the bottom of wings where you won't even see it.
But doing this, we drove up to work yesterday afternoon. Grabbed this. This is nylon.
All right. The material?
Bagging material is nylon films. It works great.
I have some of that material you left here. I dug it out yesterday. We got a couple of rolls of that stuff. If you want to use that, that worked
I think
okay.
it's gonna be, I'm hoping we can use this.
Well, you can use this over and over, you think?
Well, I hope so.
Okay, great.
Because in a minute you'll understand what I went through to get this.
Oh, I can see.
Well,
Okay.
then I put down the nylon film.
Okay.
On top of the nylon film, I put down a blanket, just a piece of blanket. Then I set the mold on the blanket.
And that lets air bleed through.
Well, what it does is it allows this to be underneath. It allows it to make a single bag without punching a hole in it due to the weight.
Yeah.
So I've got a blanket. If you look on the front, you'll see this thing sits. It sits on a folded up tablecloth.
Okay, right.
And the bag is underneath that, but on a piece of polyethylene.
Okay, right. So it's soft.
So now I've got a big sheet of nylon that unfolds this way. I can load it, close it, and just seal off the 3 sides.
Okay.
I hope. It worked yesterday. I'm hoping we can use it time and time again.
And this material is nylon, you said?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Just
strong
regular
nylon.
old nylon.
That seems stronger than that. Well, the stuff we had was real thin.
That was polyethylene.
Okay.
And if we break this or ruin it, guess what?
You have 10,000 more feet of
Yeah,
it.
it's right there. It's that shiny stuff over there.
Okay, well, we cleaned this whole garage out yesterday so we have room here. Elliot's a master of throwing things out. He threw all my old stuff out.
It's in here. Yeah.
No dimpling at all, like the other part?
A couple little teeny spots, but nowhere near.
But you've got to sand this.
Yeah, no, this
And if you had balsa wood, you'd have to sand it anyway.
fine.
Tom Morris already had, and I sent.
So what do you want to do, put Nomex in this part now?
No mix in it.
Let's go.
Get it going.
Okay, you're going to use the Nomex that you brought, or I have some over there? Okay, let's,
I get everything.
balsa wood, you want to put the balsa wood edge
I
on?
didn't bring balls.
I got balsa, yeah, I got plenty. Stripping off the edges.
Poppycock.
First, we're going to try stripping off 16th instead of 8th, because we do have a really accurate edge in this aluminum mold. So last one we did with 8th, we're going to try to do this one with 16th, and we've even thought about possibly pre-molding this little edge in the future, but we don't have it done now.
The mold is unbelievable.
The mold is great, huh, Les?
That is,
It is wonderful, isn't it?
as we
Make sure the shell, which of course is loose, that we get it indexed in exactly in the middle of the mold, and then we're going to take a 90-degree triangle and just put a temporary line there so we can, and put some tape on this while Dave is laying in the little edge molds that hold the Nomex in place, and they make the joint for the carbon parts. It's going to be a little joint part. We got the crew with 5-minute epoxy laying that in. We're going to put an edge around the whole perimeter that will be the Nomex.
The only downside of this whole thing is you need 400 hands.
We need a centipede instead of a...
You know what? You know what? The thing I found that's really cool.
You can move it if it's epoxy.
For years I've been doing this, build by myself, and now that I got this, I got guys that want to come to my house again. Like Rick Campbell wants to come by, and Peter Glowplug wants to come by.
Not Peter Glowplug, oh no.
PG with the wooden wheels. Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not below the surface anywhere.
Make sure, yeah.
I'd rather be too high than too low.
Oh, yeah. I don't have a bond here. What the hell's going on?
You will.
If you don't, put some epoxy down in there. Give it a little heat.
See if right there, see if we got something happening.
There's a supervisor of Nomex Construction. Now, one thing we want to do, Dave, because it's going to pay, because we're going to make so many panels, let's make a template of what shape the Nomex has to be.
I already know.
You already have a pattern?
Yep.
So we can cut it efficiently and lay it out so we don't, at the end of it...
My stuff comes 39 inches wide, so I divide it into thirds.
Okay.
I use 65 by 13.
Because what you can do, if you have the Nomex pre-cut, you can just keep shoving it until it fits. It's under compression
Oh, the
then.
Nomex. Right,
Nomex.
right. Yeah,
Make a pattern out of cardboard, or we got plenty of cardboard here.
It ain't happening here.
All right, well, let's let it roll PA or something.
All right, so as soon as this box is created, we'll be ready to cut the Nomex. The Nomex, and it's exactly the right length, by random, you too.
That was planned.
Now, we want to...
You know how I figured it out? You know how I did it?
No,
Everything is the length of the back of my truck.
that works. What we want to do is cut a piece of Nomex and get it to fit as an exact fit, and then make a cardboard from one of these sheets of cardboard, a pattern for it. Leave it at least, even 2 inches too big.
I'm gonna.
I was amazed how much this squashed down when you go to squash it. And of course the Nomex is like a honeycomb material. It's made out of a composite. I'll pull this in place and you get the real setting, but leave it a ½ inch too big.
Yeah.
And I'll walk
Cut it
down
out
the
here.
piece. Right. I'll walk down the piece. Leave an extra ½ inch.
Yeah.
Get your line on there. It's about a ½ inch bigger than it has to be. Did we ever cut this with scissors or not?
You don't have to. You cut it with a blade.
I just cut it with a blade? Okay. Now we also have, we're going to make a test panel hopefully in the next couple days of, Elliot Scott brought some foam, 1/8 inch foam insulation material that the glider guys use. And that would be a significant saving in cost because this Nomex is aerospace quality stuff and it is expensive. And once we get this pattern exactly the right shape, then we'll make a pattern. But we want to make it and make sure we can flip it, that it fits both ways. piece is now about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch too big. We're going to just carefully trim off. You want to do it with a ruler, Dave?
Yeah, I was thinking.
Let me get a-
Folded this, I could.
Lay the cardboard on the floor. Put a piece of that cardboard, because you're not going to cut through the cardboard. Put the cardboard, I'll go get a 4-foot ruler, and I think you can take it off a lot easier, and that'll help in making a pattern anyway. Small amount at a time. Once you cut it too small, it's a pain. Then you have to compress it that way, which is another pain. That'd be enough for me. Take that amount, you'd always take more. You want to take that, and we want to get this accurate. The leading edge in, get as many hands as you can, and then get it to bend and snap into the trailing edge.
I think we need to take just a little more off.
A little more.
Not much.
Nope, I agree, but I want to get it.
Well, you've got a loose leading edge here. You've got space here.
Okay. Well,
You want it that when you walk away, it doesn't jump out, it doesn't spring out.
yeah, I say we can do a little bit off of this side.
Yeah, and there are a couple of areas, oh, wait a minute, maybe not.
See, that's a little too much tension on there. It's going to jump out.
There's a little too much right here.
Once you have the glue on it.
Another little.
Now, wait, let's do this
I'm going to say lean.
with a little intelligence here.
Well, the back, you know, is going to be straight.
The back is a factory edge, so I know that's straight.
So it's the front that needs modifying.
Yeah.
The back.
All right, wait.
It looks like it fits in the middle. I would angle it, Dave. Favor taking a little more off the tips by 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah,
The center seems
not
happy.
so here.
Oh, see, well, you got to come in way in here, so don't forget.
Yeah.
You got to be way in here. Now, the whole thing's got to lose some.
Are we going to eat out here?
Yeah, we eat out on a picnic table. You want coffee? Les wants coffee. You want me to put a pot of coffee on?
That's the factory edge. I brought a container.
Okay, I'm out of business. I know when people are telling me my coffee's not strong enough. Okay, there you go. Yeah, we'll eat, because once we start doing this, we got to lay the glass cloth out.
Yeah, this confirms my suspicions, Dave. Take a little more, leave this, and then angle it a little bit more toward the tips.
Yep.
Take 1/8 more at the
Like
tips.
maybe 1/8, 3/16 off the tip, and then
Yeah, that's what I thought it looked like. It was springing more at the tips than at the middle.
All right.
Fish are ready for lunch. I don't know about the men. The fish are always ready for lunch. The fish definitely look like they have their Nomex all cut out for them. A nice fall day. The advantage of doing this outside too is it's going to be cooler, and the epoxy should dry just a little slower, we hope. Lunchtime. Now that everybody's got indigestion.
No,
Dave, use that piece that you got. You got a big piece
I
right
need a
up.
bigger piece. No, but I can take 2 pieces of this and tape them together.
Okay.
time out. Here's a
There you
big
go.
piece of cardboard.
Well,
You need cardboard.
This one.
Oh,
No, yeah, I know.
why don't we do half panel time?
That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's a shame.
Oh, that snaps in there real nice.
It
held in
really
place.
is a shame to
It
take
goes.
that out of the
It
phone.
goes.
Go for it, baby.
Beautiful.
All right, let's get. You got a straight edge on the back. Against the mold.
On the marker.
Not too thin?
No, that'll work. Just connect the dots with a ruler.
That should be a straight line.
You're missing a line there.
There's one there. You're right, Elliot.
On the work up here, kid.
Finger off.
I'm not cutting my finger.
So far, nobody's even drawn blood on this
I'm gonna
project.
cut his finger off.
Usually by now there'd be some blood on these parts. All right, he's got this, what's going to be the pattern for the next panel, saving us hundreds of hours in the ultimate process.
Yeah, problem is, look at this trailing edge.
What was 10?
Okay, now you got that.
66 Mustang Fastback.
I know where there's a 60.
Why are we making wings? That cardboard looks pretty... Why don't we just use the cardboard? On neighbor's picnic table without telling them. It didn't take long. They're still painting his house over there, but we just borrowed a table. If we get epoxy on it, we'll put it back and say the painters did it. These poor guys, the poor guys are painting the house and they're taking the blame for all the mess we're making. Woohoo! Woo! Okay, we're ready. We're going to roll out epoxy on the table, drop the Nomex in it.
Flip the Nomex over, roll the other side.
We're going to roll both sides.
Now, we can roll...
You're ready to roll, Dave. When I put your gloves on. You're ready to roll. Les has the epoxy mixed.
All right, Elliot, you're going to be in charge of...
Elliot, put gloves on. Don't want to get this crap on your hands.
We're going to get this stuff off the mold. Hold it up.
We got all the bleeder cloth cut.
5 minutes on the mix.
Okay, well, that no more than that. Now pour it.
Well, you're gonna, I don't know how much.
Pour a stripe. If you don't, it's going to kick off in the cup.
No, it's not.
Oh, God, at 3 ounces, that'll kick in 5 minutes.
3 ounces.
Now,
yeah.
you tell me.
Half of that amount. Roll it out. Dave will show you. Roll it out. Just roll it. See what he's doing is all you got to do. Roll it out. Drop the Nomex in. Don't have to be too fancy. Now save the other half of the resin. Drop the Nomex in. You got one side, Dave?
Yep.
Okay. Roll it, move it around, squeegee it, do whatever you got to do.
Just get it.
Get it that it's flight paper. You just move it around, it won't even matter. You got a good bond on there.
I see some dry spots.
All right, now roll the top. Put it in upside down and roll the top. That's the way we did it last time. Okay. Now just roll the top.
We need somebody with gloves here.
I got it.
Elliot's got gloves. Okay. Roll-o-matic.
Trailing edges a little on the straight side. Oh, I see some of it coming through. Okay.
Flip it over a few times and do that. I wouldn't, you don't want to have any dry spots.
It's a dry
It looks
spot.
dry up there, yeah, in the front. Well, you can lay some more resin on the table if you want, if you're getting too dry.
Would.
Put another stripe on the table, and then start mixing up another ounce of resin.
One pump.
Yeah, one pump will do.
Elliot?
Yeah.
Roll Squeegee that out.
Okay. I don't want to mix batches here. Let me get rid of all of this.
Yeah, dump that. We'll just use that for rollerball.
Scoop it all out. There you go. Beautiful.
Hey, you don't want to roll it out too thin that you don't get anything on it.
One batch. Right?
One batch, yeah. There's cups there. And give it a 2-minute mix.
Okay.
Okay, drop that in. Hey, beautiful, beautiful. Okay.
Squish it on, squeegee it around.
Give it a squeege. Give it both sides, because we're going to put that half-ounce stuff in there next.
Oh yeah, look.
Yeah, you got it. Now, roll the mold, too.
I will. Over.
Okay.
I gotta believe this is good.
Yeah, that's good, but I just want to get the mold inside of the shell rolled, too. Get it sticky.
You need this stuff off.
What do you want me to do now?
Now, that mix that you have, that's what's going in the mold. Don't put that out here on the table. Basically, see what we got. It's just...
I need some...
Just sticky wet. Les has that.
Yeah, we need about another minute to... I need more on this end, Dave.
You don't have more.
Oh, sorry.
Do we?
All right, we got the Nomex in. We got the half-ounce glass in.
Now, what do we do?
Pull it,
Press
Les, pull it.
It'll stretch.
Okay.
Sketch your end.
Go ahead. Good enough.
Yeah, push down on that. That's it.
I think this will pull.
You think
You
what?
got it backwards.
Oh shit, hold
You
on.
got it backwards.
Hold on.
The bleeder cloth has to go in
Take
first.
that off.
Although that didn't hurt sucking up all that resin.
Here you go.
Yeah, you want the bleeder cloth in first.
Jesus, why am I making these mistakes?
We gotta start writing this down.
I
Pull
know
to your
this.
Dave.
No. No.
No, you can do it in two pieces, it's okay. Actually, if you just put two pieces of bleeder cloth in.
Well, I was thinking that.
Yeah, don't put that padded stuff in.
Well, I was hoping I could get some resin out.
The resin's gonna come up through there. And first off, it's not gonna come up because you're on Nomex. This is even a waste of time. You're only gonna pull up what's on the bleeder cloth, right?
Right.
Everything else is going into the Nomex, so what's the point? Yes or no?
Don't know. I would tend to agree with you.
Grams out.
Yeah, you're not buying anything by putting that on.
No, we're not.
That's not going anywhere. You're gonna make it.
Okay.
All right, bag it up.
Now what do we do, Dave?
No, we're gonna take this.
Put this puppy to bed for tonight.
Just, nope. Fold it back here, Les. Now, get me a couple pieces of this foamy stuff right here. Not that it's gonna matter in this.
Oh, to cushion the...
Yeah.
Oh, it may crush the Nomex.
Right. So I just wanna go like that. Just put that there.
I think you got it all, pal.
Elliot can cut up the big
Yeah,
piece. We
put
just
it
had it
out.
out. So I
What we're doing is actually sealing the ends of the bags
Inadequate.
with duct tape so it makes a sealed bag. The whole part will be in a vacuum bag very soon. The duct tape seals up the edges.
And I'm gonna.
You want to go another one over here
Let's get
on the
yeah,
bottom?
get anything pushed in there. These guys have decided to turn on us here.
I've had to do something since before lunch.
Something important, I assume.
Take a whiz.
Oh! We don't say whiz on video. Okay, he's got the vacuum pump. The bag is made. The moment of truth. Is this bag a leaker
It didn't leak last night.
or a bleaker? All right, hit the pump.
Now we need to plug it in.
Okay, and we watch it. We watch the amazing sucking action. You want that up there, don't you? Keep those right over. We got 2 more rolls of duct tape.
Takes a while for this bag.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a giant bag.
The problem is you use one of the real big pumps and you're gonna...
As the sky, look at what's happening out at our tables, blowing away. We're in the middle of a storm here. Hey, we just got this done in time, Mr. M. You're gonna get wet, Elliot.
Crappy weather.
Making models is supposed to be fun, not work.
I come to this country.
Who told you to sell? Hey, you can buy your own house back.
What's wrong? What? Nothing. I was watching. It's starting to collapse.
There it goes.
No, I don't know about that.
No. You got a lot of air in it.
You got another cord?
We're gonna have a real storm here, baby.
I think it's gonna be... I did actually tell you, but no one believes.
You brought this weather. Look at it. The guys are coming down off the ladder.
No.
No. I'll just sell my house in England. I'll come to America. Everything will be fine.
Are you sure you want the rain bringer with you? Bloody follows me every...
Come on, baby. Suck that bag down.
I went to Dubai and it rained. Dubai, middle of the...
Did you really?
Right desert, rain.
Dubai. It rained once in 20 years. The day you were there. Look at this rain. Wow. Boy, are we lucky.
Oh, that's the word for it, is it? Lucky? I've been looking for that word.
Yes. Yes, this is the life of Wendy and Elliot here. Look at this rain. Live free or get wet.
Some cookies, some muffins, some donuts, something. What do we make a deli run?
what they are.
I think Elliot should go get a pizza for us to celebrate.
We're good guys didn't want the pizza before. Wait a minute.
I lied. Chicky wants pizza now. Hunter hooking up 2 pumps. He's got the second pump ready to roll. Oh, that's the one I like. The one that makes noise all night when you're trying to sleep. We have dual tune pipes going here, baby. Oh, there it goes. Oh my God! Look at this, Les. See now you can see the imprint come. You can see the imprint of the Nomex. There it goes. Double pumper. Now you want to get this up around the edges, nice and. Oh, it's the edges.
Here it comes.
Okay, but it's the edges, Dave. Make sure this gets down in those edges.
Listen to this guy. It's like
Come on, come on, come on.
Before.
Never done this.
How did you know what he's doing, though?
Well, my carbon plane is done. Where's yours? Yours is back in England, where that is.
All right.
All right, here we go.
There's a problem.
Here we are a little bit later. The rain has subsided, although not permanently. No rain out there?
Nope, no rain out there.
Okay, and we got this nailed down. We found there was a big hole in Les's end. We've named it Les's leak. Right out here, there was a big leak. Now you can see the Nomex, how it vacuums itself right down into that form.
Well, you really,
Isn't that amazing?
really know who your friends are when these are being made.
You bet.
Screw up once. Take one leak.
One leak! Take one leak! And then naming things after you again.
That's right.
As soon as this kicks off, we'll disconnect the second pump.
Boy, that is down there.
Yeah, that's the whole... Well, you got 2 pumps on it. You got 2. That's really gonna... The more you do of this, you'll also pull more of the resin up into the So they're gonna make stabs and elevators now. Okay, we gotta get the other table in here?
Why don't we do it now?
You can do it right out there. Do it out there.
What are they going to use to make the staff to move?
No, but Dave's got compression molding. Your compression mold.
We're gonna see what we found because of the radius in these.
Yeah.
We found
These are the
with
stab
radius-
molds.
With the radius, the vacuum wasn't pulling it in there.
Right.
It bridges. What happens, it stretches and it
But
keeps
what I
it
did
in.
was, I said, okay, instead of doing it with vacuum, let's build this, make this out of rubber.
Right.
Lay the
Put it in
mold
there.
up,
Right.
put everything in there, put that thing in, then take this plate, reverse it,
And put some
fold
pressure.
it down.
Now, what are you going to use for a release agent here? You gonna put Teflon in there?
I can put Teflon in there, or I can put in, or we can,
How about just wax?
PVA it. I used PVA last time.
Well, if you want a PVA, give me one of the parts, I'll PVA it so it'll be dry.
Right here.
That's the one you want to use? Okay.
Let's use this,
Let me go PVA that so it'll be dry.
and you'll find it's
Trying to get,
more than enough.
trying to use the heat to our
And I-
advantage to dry up the PVA.
And I would agree with him.
Gonna dry up the PVA,
Weigh the carbon.
and with this piece out in the sun, the billet of aluminum is already picking up heat. Ooh, you can feel it's nice and warm to the touch. So we're trying to use the heat to our advantage to let it kick off some of the resin and to dry the PVA. And Elliot's working on the crutch mold. How much more you got before we can pour that mold?
Well, I'd like to put a coat of primer on it. It'll dry very quickly in this. And then
Yeah, okay.
ready to...
You got it. Whenever you're ready, let me know. We'll spray it.
I'd say do it now. But I can always sand it
You
up.
run this is with Elliot's material, the half glass and half carbon. Now what are you going to do? Just put that in, the rubber piece, and then put it under compression? Or are you going to try to make 2 of them?
I can only make one.
Why? Why can't you make 2 at once? Is there a reason?
Yeah.
You don't have any flat stuff to put on top, huh?
Well, I could put 2, sandwich them together, turn one upside down.
Nah, make one. Now, on a part like this, okay, I was going to say you could just use the other one, then you still need a flat piece for the top. Okay. See, I'm not as smart as I thought I was.
Can't miss it.
You got it? Okay, we all set. Carbon City.
Boy, that stuff.
Not only does it work well, it looks cool.
You what?
It looks cool.
Yeah, it does.
An airplane that doesn't look cool is not cool. Les would totally agree with me on that. Planes that look like uncool are uncool.
Can make a lot of enemies if I names.
How much resin gets
Tsunami.
Tsunami, Strega, the flying shoebox.
How much resin actually gets sucked out using?
You mixed an ounce, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The cool thing about this, Elliot, is I could load this up totally,
And it'll all come out.
and it'll all come out, and it'll only leave what's needed. Elliot, I think this, I can tell already, I think
This is
this is gonna be a
superior
winner.
stuff.
I think this is a winner.
And this is how much?
It's 120 yards. It's the same,
How much is it?
120 a yard.
120 a yard.
That's what I paid for the
Well,
but
I
on the
negotiated. Had a friend of mine whose table saw is dead accurate. Take a 2x4 oak, okay, and cut perfectly square sides and ends.
Now, one guy can do a small mold like this. Bleed a cloth next. Look how that soaks it right up. Work it into the corners.
Oh, look at this. This is so easy, it's frightening.
This is nice.
Is your dick hard? Because it ought to be. This is great. Because it ought to be.
It's gonna look great when it comes.
You got a bag for this already set up?
Oh,
Or
yeah,
are you just going to use the metal?
Yeah, we got a bag.
we got a bag.
We got a bag.
Bags are all set to go.
The bag is ready.
We're on neighbor's table. It's going to look none the worse for wear and tear, is it?
How
We're
much
gonna-
is one of these?
We're going to have to buy him a new table. My ex-friendly neighbor, who used to be a good
I
friend.
think let's buy him a new table. How much does one of these cost, Wendy? Where'd you get them?
$70. I think we're going to buy him a new table. That's the only thing we can do.
I'll give you the $70. You buy him a new table.
So you have to sacrifice certain things to the gods here. We sacrifice
I told you to
these
get some
tables.
sawhorses. I brought it.
That's molding rubber. Just make sure it's right in position.